Hello everyone and welcome to part 3 of our first chess lesson. Last time you learned about check, checkmate, and stalemate. Today we're going to learn about some special moves that you can only play in the right conditions. It's called castling, en passant, and promotion. Let's dive right in. We're first going to look at castling. So this is a move that will look kind of weird to you now that you've seen how the pieces move. But this is a very real move. What happens is, if you haven't moved this rook yet, you haven't moved the king yet, you can move the king 2 squares and then put the rook on the other side. This is called castle. I know it's weird, but it's a real move and you can do it. Remember, if you can only do it if you haven't moved either the king or the rook. So let's say you moved the rook and then you moved it back. You can't castle now. You have to do it only when you haven't moved either one. You can also do it with the other rook. If you haven't moved this rook yet, you move the king 2 squares like this and the rook on the other side. That's how you castle the other rook. Because the king is on this side and the queen is on this side, we call this castling kingside castling and this castling queenside castling. So you have kingside and queenside castle. We also call it short castling and long castling. So this is castling, and you can only do it, remember, you can only do it if you haven't moved the rook you're castling with and you haven't moved your king. Okay, so that was castling. Now let's talk about promotion. Promotion is when your pawn gets to the other side of the board. You might have been wondering at the beginning, well, I can move 2 squares, and I can move 1, 1, 1. But then what happens when you get to the other side? Well, when you get to the other side, this pawn can become any piece except the king. You can turn the pawn into a queen. You can make the pawn into a rook. You can make this pawn into a bishop or a knight. But you can't stay a pawn. If you move, you can't stay a pawn. You have to be one of these 4 pieces. Most people pick the queen because it's the most powerful piece and it's really easy to win if you have an extra queen. That's promotion. Now, en passant is a weird move and it doesn't seem to make sense at first, but it is a very real move that you can say actually exists. En passant is French. It means in passing. What happens is, if your pawn is 3 squares away from promoting, so you have 1, 2, 3. If your pawn is here, or you could say 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and your opponent moves like from here to here, so they move 2 squares like this, you can actually still capture as if they were actually on this square. Isn't it weird? They move 2 squares like this. It's next to it, and you land on an empty square and you take the pawn. This only works if they move 2 squares. If the pawn was here and it moved 1 square, you can't do this. And you can't take here. You have to do on the empty square. But let's say they move 2 squares, but you don't take. You do something else on the other side of the board, and then you want to take next turn. You can't do it. You have to do it right after they move the pawn 2 squares. So that was castling, en passant, and promotion. Next lesson, we're going to look at piece values and notation. I'll see you there.